Hey guys, today we're going to be solving contains duplicate. I'm going to try to post one of these videos every single day in preparation for recruiting season so I could get a good full-time job. But yeah, let's start with this question. Given an integer array nums, return true if any value appears more than once in the array. Otherwise, return false. So it gives us this example of the list nums, and the array is 1, 2, 3, and 3. Excuse the bad handwriting. So this list is supposed to return true, and it returns true because 3 is repeated twice, hence there being a duplicate. Now, my first intuitive approach would be to compare each value with every other value, and you would essentially do this by having two loops. So you would start at 1, compare it with 2, compare it with 3, and then compare it with 3, since that's the last element. Knowing that 1 doesn't equal any other element in the list, this first loop would not bear any duplicate. So then we would go to the second element. 2, compare that with the next element, which would be 3, compare that the next, and this would also not give us any duplicates. But now we reach our third element. We start at 3 and we compare it with 3, and we see that they're equal to each other, which would then give us our duplicate. Now, to code this is really simple. It would just be two for loops. So remember, in our first for loop, we're starting at an integer I, or element I, in the range of the length of the total list, nums, and then we are comparing that with the second element, or the elements incremented by 1 in the list, which would be shown as I plus 1, and those are your two loops. Our if condition would be if the elements equal to each other. So if nums at I is equal to nums at j, nums at element j, then we would want to return a true. If not, we would return false. So this should work, unless I made some typo or something. Awesome, yeah. So this is our first solution, but we noticed that it isn't optimal because we're essentially going through each element in the array twice through these two loops, meaning our solution is O of n squared, and our space complexity is O of 1. Now, a more optimized solution would be to create a hash map. And we could do this by, let's say we're going to create this giant loop, and that's going to be our hash set. And let's use the same example, the same list. And what we're going to do is see what happens when we first initialize the variables to the set, and then see how a duplicate can be found in this manner. So we're going to start with 1. We see that it's not in this set, so we add it. And then 2, it's not in the set, so we add it. 3, it's not in this set, so we add it. But then when we go to the fourth element, we see that 3 is in the set, so we don't add this. Therefore, we can see that there's a duplicate, and this will return true. To implement the solution, we would first, as we did in the picture, initialize the set. So we'll call our set scene. And then after we initialize the set, we're gonna start looping through our list. So for num in our list nums, we want to see if nums, or see if the element num is in scene. So if num is in scene, then you want to return true. And directly if not, you want to add num into our hash set. So let's just do that, and then make sure to return false, of course, because that would mean there would be no duplicates. So just to review, since this is our optimized solution, we're going to just review this real quick. We're initializing the set. We're looping through the list, and we're checking to see if the list exists, or sorry, we're checking to see if the element nums is in our hash set. How do you comment? There we go. I don't use Python that much, so it's pretty obvious in my comments. But then this is our duplicate found condition, or duplicate found. We can just say duplicate found. If not, if it doesn't exist in the hash, let's add it. And then also make sure if there's no duplicates found, we return false. Yeah, so there we go. Let's run it. Awesome. So yeah, this solution is optimized. It would be O of n time complexity, since it just goes through the list one time, but it would also have a O of n space complexity. That's it. Thank you.